From the high plains of the Midwest, I bid you good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever your time zone might be. My nod to the late and great Art Bell. I'm Keith Sharp.
And I'm G. Dressel.
And we welcome you to Life After Life, a paranormal webcast where we talk about the paranormal, UFOs, or the unexplained. And the biggest question of them all, what happens when we die? Stay tuned. Boom. Hey, we had a perfect. That's the first time we've done that in so long.
Hey, I just want to apologize in advance. Sorry about today.
Yeah. So when you get someone that cancels in the morning, let me know.
They did it. They canceled on my way to work. Yeah. I see what
I'm saying, yeah.
But I was going to my night sessions. Like this literally happened like 5.
I know. You got to keep me updated, man.
I was trying. I was like, hey, we're gonna have to find somebody.
You should have stopped your session. Right.
The first thing I did was I hit up Dean though, because I was like,
yeah. And then Dean said you never got back with him
because I started my session.
Well, you got to end your session.
It was crazy.
You got to let the guests know, man.
You know what it's like outside though. It's gym weather.
I'm scolding Garrett online.
You are in front of everybody. I'm sorry.
He's gonna beat me up after
Sorry,
this.
Sorry, sir.
Hey, Tara Bell. Thank you guys. D. Berlin showing up. Hey guys, thanks for showing up. Tonight we had a little change of plans at the last moment. As hopefully you read the Facebook thing. We were supposed to have the Living Dead Girls paranormal podcast, and
but they
crime.
Only work together, and one of them couldn't make it.
Yeah, I kind of get that because I wouldn't want to do an interview about you.
Yeah, so, same. I get it.
So
things happen, life happens.
Life happens, but thank God we got a hold of Dean McMurray, the military medium, and a regular, and we're going to have him on next week because I want more time to let everybody know that he's going to be here. So that way, if you want to get a reading or something, you can call in. He's generously agreed to do that. And
hey, I was telling him when he called earlier, I was like, hey, Dean, every paranormal show we circle back and we're like, hey, that one time we talked to Dean.
Well, I mean, hands down, he's and if any psychics are watching that we've had on the show, I'm sorry, but Dean's the best.
Dude,
But did I just say that out loud? Anyway, so let's bring Dean on. And hey, there he is.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Man. It's so good to see you.
It's good to see you.
Hey, it's good to see you guys. It's been a while.
Yeah, have you been staying busy?
I have. I've been staying out of trouble, as day's still young, though. And
you've been doing some events and stuff, haven't you?
Yeah. I've been doing, just finished up a really fun event. We called it Sequins in Spirit. And it was actually where, believe this or not, I know our earlier conversation, but
I know where that's going.
Yeah, with the local drag queen of all people, which was kind of like the Odd Couple. She actually even said that this is like the Odd Couple.
Yeah,
and it's so cool though.
Right.
Is as you guys know, I'm all about inclusion. I love, whether you talk to dead people or you love to put on a show or whatever your thing is, I'm all about being who you are
for sure,
and empowering that, right? And it was so cool to see, fellow psychics, other mediums, other energy workers there, as well as people from the LGBTQ, community and everything. Everybody, it was just such a fun, heartfelt event. I'm supposed to meet with her tomorrow to kind of do what I call a hot wash of the event, and then let's hope that fingers crossed that maybe we do an even bigger event.
For sure.
Yeah, so we've actually talked about maybe taking it on the road. Who knows? So
never
know what the future holds. So
I've been tracking your work.
Yeah, so I appreciate it.
I read your Monday readings.
Was Chip Coffee there?
Do you?
Yeah, dude, every Monday. You did one a while back that like really affected my wife. It was
I hope in a good way.
In a good way. No, good way. It was
they're divorced now.
Yeah, we're divorced. No, I've divorced Keith's daughter. But we still do the show. No, I'm just kidding. I'm too lazy to get divorced. It was about a bird, a yellow bird that would fly into a window. It had been a while. This one's been maybe about 4 or 5 months ago. And somebody sent you a picture of literally a yellow bird.
You remember that? Now I do. Yeah, that's been a while,
That
but
was a
yeah,
long time
that
ago.
was the freakiest thing.
Creepy.
So
What was it?
yeah, so
Tell us about it.
about talking about kind of like I think it was about signs from the other side, and specifically I saw a yellow bird. And it was so interesting. And then somebody sends me a picture, which happens from time to time on things that they physically see, a validation of a reading that I might have given, to them specifically, or like these Monday messages from Spirit. And it was so crazy because, well, it was a dead yellow bird, but
Right.
it was a yellow bird. And I was like, whoa, talk
Yeah.
about goosebumps.
Wow.
And it was so crazy. There was so many things. Yeah, I do remember that.
That one got Cash. He was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, have you seen Dean's page today?"
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's
I was just. Oh, go ahead, Dean.
I
I'm
was
sorry.
gonna say every once in a while I get the goosebumps like, whoa, that's crazy.
Right.
So crazy cool, but
No, yeah, crazy cool. Well, we've been talking about mediums actually quite a bit recently. Me and my wife, me and Cass, and I told you,
I know her.
you know who she is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was getting a tattoo on Saturday and talking to the artist. Obviously, we had to sit there for a while, and we started going down the rabbit hole. Well, what else are we going to talk about? So we started talking about spirits and mediums. I talked about Mr. McMurray here. But she was saying that the medium she went to, her father had passed away. And so she went to go see a medium, but the father wasn't coming through. And the medium said maybe it's because he's looking for trying to find his sea legs. Does that make sense?
if by his sea legs, maybe trying to, how do I want to say, certain,
Learn the ropes.
I wouldn't really say that, because here's my understanding. This is Dean's.
I wanted
This
to hear
is my
Dean's.
understanding.
Yes.
I can't speak for another medium. I can't speak
For
for
sure.
anybody. Only from our own experience, right? From what I understand, is every spirit that transitions over, is capable of communicating or connecting with, but some for some reason, whether they're still, um, I don't want to say trying to figure things out, maybe learning lessons on the other side, some, that their soul didn't, heal, or learning whatever that is. Especially people that, die by suicide or other things, are kind of going through a soul rejuvenation or healing process, whatever. Our words really fail what is actually taking place,
Right.
right?
Isn't that so
And
fascinating?
Yeah, it
and
is.
yeah, and it's so in depth. But one of the things I feel that the soul, as soon as it, returns to source, is completely capable of communicating with, their loved ones on the other side. What I have found, 9.9% of the time, when a person gets a reading and somebody doesn't come through, doesn't mean that they don't love you. No, that doesn't mean that. Doesn't mean that the medium or whomever is giving the reading is a fake and a fraud. No, certainly does not mean that in every case either. The thing that I would share is sometimes it is about a barrier that the living has, even though in your heart of hearts and in your head, you're like, Dean, you don't know, like, I love my mom, like, I
Right.
love my mom, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so when the day comes that she wants to cross over, do I want to? Hell yeah, I want to
Yeah.
communicate with them. So, not saying that you don't yearn to connect with them, and not saying that, or that you don't care about them anymore, but sometimes there is a psychological subconscious hang up somewhere. And have I found that, 0.1% what that thing is? No, because it's different for everybody.
Right, for sure.
Yeah. And so what I
God,
always
that makes
share
so
is,
much sense.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you
always
so
say
much, Dean.
is, and my take is be patient with it.
For sure.
And why don't, rely, because also my belief is that we all have the ability to connect to our loved ones. I believe that we all have the ability to, develop our mediumship abilities. And whether you believe with that or not, but
I do.
so, why not,
I know you do.
connect to them in a sense for yourself, saying, write them a letter, or think of them, constantly. And a lot of times we're just looking for validation anyways, outside of ourselves. And 9 times out of 10, that's what it is. I just want validation that I'm not nuts, or that I'm, sometimes it just gets in that, that playing cartoon that goes on in our head, and it's like, oh, is that really what's going on, or whatever? And sometimes it's nice to have somebody that you don't know come up and validate what's going on for you in the paranormal realm, or whatever, right? And then deliver a message that touches you, in your heart. And so,
yeah, because you ultimately are just trying to bridge this unknown gap, right? Like between the living and the dead. So like the living has just as much, I wouldn't say just as much power, but if I go into this situation, okay, I'll put my nanny that passed away many years ago when I was gone. She never comes through. So it's like, me and Cass were talking about this the other night, and it was like, well, maybe I'm not ready for it. Maybe it's not her. Maybe she's sitting there and she's ready. Because I was telling Cass, I was like, dude, she wore like gold shoes everywhere. She would be the one who's like, for some reason I'm seeing gold shoes, and I'm like, oh, that's Nanny, right? So it's and she was saying the same thing about Granny. She's like, well, she hasn't had Granny come through. I was like, well, maybe just the grandpas are wanting to come through lately, right? And so, but that makes sense to me. That's what we were talking about super late the other night.
Maybe they have nothing to say.
Do what?
So maybe they just don't have anything to say.
Maybe they're just talking to each other.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if I was going to bring this up, we got a couple of people who are wanting to read him
already.
If you guys hang on just a minute, but I mean, and I'm sorry I'm doing this on air, but it's up to you. We can talk to Dean off the air if you want to. But your daughter,
we can absolutely talk about this.
She's showing some psychic abilities. That runs in my sister's like that, but she thinks it's from the devil.
Yeah.
So,
sure.
But his little daughter, tell him the story.
Okay. Yeah. So since she was 2, before she could really even communicate properly, she would walk into a room and already know like family members that had passed away by name. And we were like, and
it was weird.
Yeah. And on that, we don't really I don't know. We don't really sit around and talk about people that have died in our family every day, like especially with our 2-year-old, right? And so that kind of was like, oh, that's interesting. But we run this show, so we're like in this kind of category. So obviously we're sitting there talking and thinking, okay, well maybe she overheard. So I'm trying to debunk it. Well, it kept happening. Well, now she's 4. So fast forward 2 years later, mind of her own, right? Everything like that. She's still talking about Granny, like on the regular, but she's talking.
And she's never seen a picture of her, and she picked out a picture.
Yes.
They asked which one is Granny, and she picked her. She was and supposedly Granny comes into her room.
Granny comes into her room,
plays with her,
and she also has.
Isn't that awesome?
That's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah. She knew specifics about like walkie-talkies, which, little kids aren't running around with walkie-talkies like we used to.
Right.
And so, well, that's something that Granny used to do with my wife. They would play the walkie-talkie, and my oldest daughter, they would play a walkie-talkie game. Well, Granny had passed away right when Cleo was born. So she didn't. And so that was another interesting thing. And I think you showed her a picture.
She didn't even know what a walkie-talkie was. I mean, she described it to us. And so about 30 minutes later, I pulled up a picture of like a kid's walkie-talkie. It would have been orange and gray, the one that Granny played with. And I just showed her a picture. I said, what's that? And she goes, oh, that's a talkie-walkie. She just got the words mixed up, but she knew what it was. And there's no reason that she should know what a walkie-talkie is. She's too small. I never used one.
So the interesting thing about this is that I also have a 12-year-old daughter. So I have a 12-year-old and then a 4-year-old. So massive difference in the way they think, right? Yeah. And so we're in the car coming back home from a sleepover they had with their grandmother. And my 12-year-old says, hey, Cleo, tell them about the ghost you saw at Nana's. And I was like, oh my God, because I don't want to be speaking that into existence. We talk a lot about manifesting things here. I want it to become natural for her, right? And so immediately I look in the rearview mirror at my 12-year-old. I'm like, don't use the word ghost. And so she goes, oh, Amy? And then my daughter's like, yeah, tell them about Amy.
Oh, man.
So she goes into this story about, she said a black man had stabbed Amy, who had pink hair, and the guy had blood on his white sweater, which obviously as a father, I don't want to hear my 4-year-old talk.
Right.
And then she almost seemed like kind of ashamed of it. So she said, but I was just pranking you. It was just a prank. And my wife looked at me like, we're around you all the time. We know. So it's been kind of like a little interesting kind of journey. It's not, okay, I'll just be honest. It's a little bit scary.
Yeah, well,
I mean, as a parent, knowing that my
so Dean, do you think she should a psychic kind of counsel her a little bit to tell her how to use what's going on with her?
Well, I think really that having loving, supporting parents, number one, is the best support that you can ever hope for any child, regardless of whether they're showing budding abilities or not.
For
Right.
sure.
Number one, right? Number two is, in a child's development, for me personally as a parent, you have to come at this from a personal perspective, because otherwise you're putting your agenda on the child.
Exactly. Yes.
That's my assessment, right?
Yeah.
And so as a dad of a daughter who was approximately 6 when everything kicked off for me spiritually, she's now 16. Would talk about a man in her room and all, just stuff that sounded creepy coming from, number one, your daughter, and just
Yeah.
the little girl voice sounds like a replay from
Yes.
Poltergeist.
Yes.
And,
Oh,
it just,
God.
it's like, but it does but especially when it comes from your own children,
Right.
it's like, oh my God, like, your eyes get as big as
You saw
saucers.
Amy get stabbed in the neck. Yeah.
Right. Something that could be graphic, or
Right.
things that could be, and you don't want things to be traumatizing to the child, because you want to understand that, if they're connecting, there could be things that they see or experience that could be very scary, what
Right.
they would, categorize as scary. And, one of the things is just helping them understand, saying, we understand that you have a special gift, and you can categorize it however you want. If you're very religious, you can say you have a very special gift from God and the angels, and they allow you to see people that are crossed over into heaven. And sometimes that means seeing how they died. And guess what, though? If you're uncomfortable with that at any time, understand that you always have the power to shut it off. And in reality, can you shut it off? No, you cannot.
Right.
But for a child, to empower them at a young
Right.
age, and the key word is empowerment,
Absolutely.
to say that you're still in charge,
You're in
not
control.
spirit, and saying you can't, in theory, when I say you can't shut it off, does it still exist? Yes, it does. But to understand, to put it in the words for a child, to say, guess what? If you need to turn down the volume, or if you need to get some, so they're not bugging you all the time, or seeing disturbing images, good Lord, who the hell wants to
Right.
see
I
somebody
know.
get stabbed in the neck?
Right.
I mean, I don't even want to watch that
Right.
stuff. And so, but understand that as a medium, people die by all kinds of manners. And sometimes, is spirit going to come forward and share that information with you so you can relay that? Yep, they sure will. And there's sometimes other stuff that comes with it. So if she's getting that information, obviously there's something at a soul level that is kind of making it okay. But to set the stage for any young child, especially your own, but any young child, to say, again, to make sure that they know, number one, that they're safe,
Right.
where they currently are.
Right,
Hey,
yep.
you're in a safe space. And number two, empower them. Empowering people are so, so, so important, to understand that you have the ability, you're doing great, and you have the power, if things get too freaky, to kind of the bailout, right?
For
And so, I know my daughter, when I knew she was very gifted in mediumship, and she was kind of scared to do it. And, she could feel spirits around and whatnot. And so I just started quizzing her, like, is it a man or a woman? I just bring her through the steps, and try to, if you think from the top to the bottom, you're describing somebody. And I was like, dark hair, blonde hair, whatever.
you were doing,
And
yeah.
you just,
Yeah, we
simple
kind of
description.
did that with her a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
While she was laying in the pool.
And it's so, what are they doing? What are they wearing? And so, but next thing you know, which was fine in the beginning for my daughter, because it was people that she knew as well.
Wow.
But where
Okay.
it freaked her out was, she came running up from her room and she goes, Daddy, I don't like that anymore. Now there's people that are showing up that I don't know.
Right.
And I was like, I get that. And I was like, it's okay. I was like, because they see your light on. I always refer to it as a light on in heaven. And
Mhm.
so when we're connected, or spirit knows that we can connect, it was always described to me as kind of like a street lamp or something on in heaven. And then spirit's like, oh, hey, so-and-so's got their light on. Let me stop on in and visit.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Right.
so, and then when your visiting hours are off, you shut it off, right? And sometimes it's a nice visual for kids as well.
For sure.
And
Absolutely.
so, yeah, but I was like, oh, and then I explained, well, your light is on in heaven, and those that have crossed over know that you have the ability, Bailey, to connect. And she was like, I don't like that. I don't, make that. And she was kind of freaking out and a little bit and wasn't sure how to cope. And I said, okay. And so I just brought her through like a meditation of asking Holy Spirits to leave and desist and get the hell out, basically.
Right,
Mhm.
right, right.
And setting boundaries and, to calm her down and everything else. And then once, and I was like, now we got to set boundaries with those in spirit because, and so we did that, and we talked about bubbling up every day. And good Lord, she's still 16. School just got out here
Yeah.
in North Dakota, right? So, we were dropping her off every day that she didn't drive. And even before she'd go out the door or go off to school at 16, we're still telling her, bubble up, talking about protecting your energies. And I think that's great, not only for kids, teenagers, but adults.
Absolutely.
Keeping spirit's energy to spirit. And then, it's just a protection aspect. But when our kid, when my daughter was way young, we started that with her. But it's setting boundaries. And getting back to Keith's question, would it be good for her if she, talked to some? Perhaps. It's how I would go off of like how she's dealing with it. Some children at a very
She's
young age
very
are
Dude,
very nonchalant. I mean,
that's
yeah.
kind of what
and
got me, honestly.
well, what got me is she described this man with a knife that had blood on him, but there was no fear in her eyes. Like she just wasn't scared of this guy.
The other thing that kind of is interesting about Cleo that I haven't told you yet is that she talks about, is it in our world or not in our world?
Yeah.
So that's how she categorizes everything. It's like, oh, is that in our world or not? And which I found at first, I was like, oh, that's cute. And then she started telling me
very
about
interesting
dead
because
people.
that she would be aware of that.
Right. So,
Right.
well, and that made me happy. And I think going to do what Dean said, and dude, thank you so much. That's kind of validation of what Cass and I were talking about. I told her, I was like, just like anything, if your kid has an anxiety problem or whatever, you got to everything's practice.
Right.
Everything in life is practice. I was like, but B, maybe there's, some mechanisms that she can use. Like, hey, if it starts scaring you,
Yeah. And Dean,
Right.
some kids, I've heard this too before, like young kids can do this, and then sometimes that kind of just goes away as they get older. The psychic thing leaves.
Yeah, it's not a magic, line in the sand, so to speak. I think some kids, for some, I've seen them, about, usually around anywhere from the age between 6 to 10, they make a conscious decision, that this shit's too freaky for me.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it anymore. I'm shutting it down. And really, when you think about it, it is that the frontal cortex starting to say, on the logical aspect of everything, the fight or flight, and be like, no, I'm shutting that shit down.
Yeah.
And
I'm
because
good
I
with
can't
that.
deal,
Yeah.
for me, it's too freaky.
Right.
And which is okay. And then the other aspect, some people that, like saying, it's okay, it's just the angels, it's nothing freaky. And so if they don't feel afraid, if they don't feel, attacked or whatever, they feel empowered, a lot of them continue. And, typically what I have seen from personal experience, not everybody, I understand, not everybody fits this mold, but if they can hold on to that openness, we'll call it, until they're teens, then what we'll see is it becomes kind of a norm. Like, yeah, I just kind of do it. I don't even think about it because they've already kind of, battled in the trenches, so to speak, when they were 4 freaking years old. And now here they are 16 or whatever, 18. And now as they get into young adulthood, they're an old veteran already.
Right, for sure.
They've been dealing with this, you know, like you hear some psychics and other mediums like, yeah, dude, as soon as I, you know, as early as I can remember, 2, 4, whatever, you know, like I've been talking to dead people, dead, you know, grandma
Right.
showed up, you know, so, you know, some people have made a decision at some level that it was okay and that it just stayed with them. And or the people that shut it down too, sometimes it blossoms again later in life,
Right.
sometimes
Right,
not.
for sure.
And so yeah, there's so many facets to this, and there's no specific template for anybody.
Right.
Well, because
And
it's
it's like, and
human.
it doesn't mean that one person is more talented than another.
Right.
Because I think that would be unfair to say, because who are we to say that just because somebody had latent abilities and didn't really blossom again until their early 30s or whatever, and be like, you know, I've been doing this since I was 4. Well, maybe they were too, but they, for whatever reason, maybe they had an experience that just freaked them out and they shut it down, like,
Well,
you know,
yeah.
close the doors and,
Absolutely.
you know,
this is
lock it
what's
away.
this is what's so fascinating about this is there's no rubric to mediumship. There's no way that we can possibly grade anybody or put it on a scale, or you know what I'm saying?
It's going to be different for everybody.
Right. Yeah.
So,
because as humans, we're so here and confined.
but
So situational,
the
right?
thing that's weird to me is your daughter, my granddaughter, your daughter.
Yes.
It's almost like it's kind of almost like it's natural to her. She's she's very nonchalant. She doesn't get scared. And we kind of tested her. We just showed pictures. Like I thought, okay, I'm going to just pull up a picture of a girl with pink hair.
She has specific names.
Yeah,
Jeff and
she had
Amy.
Amy with pink hair. So I just brought up a girl and I thought, okay, she just says, yeah, that's her. And I said, is that her, babe? And she goes, no, that's not her. So it's like, you know, there's something to this. Plus, like, she knows a lot of stuff that we don't. I mean, that she shouldn't know.
I know, it's so bizarre.
All right, well, let's get to some readings
dude, we
here.
got people
Yeah.
All right, Leah, let's bring her on. Hello, Leah. How are you? Hello, Leah.
She's like, I waited too long. Hello.
Leah, you there?
Yes,
Hey, how are you doing, Leah?
I don't know if you can hear me.
I can. Can you hear us?
We can hear you.
Okay.
Well,
so what's your question tonight?
I don't even have a specific question. I didn't even know that you guys were going to be on, but I've been read on your show before, but there's a terrible echo. What do I do?
I couldn't hear any of that.
It was garbled. That was pretty
It's really,
garbled.
it's like going in and out, kind of garbling. Yeah. Try it again.
Is this any better?
No, it's still kind of bad.
Try again.
Are you on your phone, Leah?
We got time.
Yeah, I'm on my phone.
Okay. That sounded a little better. Go ahead and try it again. And if not, we'll go to the next one. I'll keep in the green room. So maybe you can get to a different location or something.
Yeah. I don't really have a specific question. I didn't even know you guys were going to be doing this tonight.
We didn't either.
But I've been read on your show before.
Oh, well, that's okay.
I know it's okay. It's kind of ironic. So I'm just waiting to see what he's going to say or what he's going to ask. I don't know.
Well, I can do a reading for you based on just you. So let's talk really quick. So one of the things, Garrett and Keith, that you guys know probably from previous and personally getting readings from me, is I do a lot of I connect a lot when I'm doing readings with archangels prior to connecting to spirit. Now, one of the things, what was interesting is 2 angels that were very specific came in that were really strong with you. The first being Archangel Michael. We know Michael is, you know, I jokingly refer to Michael as the badass angel, right?
Yep.
The Fabio of the archangel world coming in and like kicking ass, taking names, but is all about protection, really, and is really postured very strongly around you. And which is interesting because he comes in behind you and postures his wings in front of you. So typically this is indicative. So people feeling like they're being approached on, or their boundaries are being, how do I want to say, like somebody is like overstepping the boundaries with you. And also feeling like somebody's kind of coming from behind or kind of backstabbing you. And it's Michael's way of saying, hey, I got you protected. I got your 6, as well as everything else around you, right? Remember, we were talking about bubbling up, right?
Yep.
Other people's stuff stays their stuff, and your energy stays your energy. And also, I want to talk about Archangel Gabriel, because Gabriel really cool. It's kind of a funky energy with you, and that's a good thing because his energy is actually pulsing. And it's really kind of cool because it's talking about more trying to get through some of your blocks. And so Gabriel, when we get back to it, is known as God's messenger. Came to the shepherds as they were sleeping, all that great stuff. But also, more importantly, kind of when I do readings, is all about people awakening to the spiritual abilities, people that have any type of message to convey, whether in the logical 3D world that we're existing in right now, or in the intuitive psychic world, right? Those communicating with the other side, other galaxies, whatever you're doing. And the thing that I want to share is it's really kind of like you're using Gabriel as an antenna, trying to amplify your signal to be heard even louder and on a bigger scale. So it's like, yeah, your archangel stuff ain't quite cutting it right now. I want to be amplified. That's the thing that I'm getting. And also the pulsating with Gabriel is also all about like trying to almost like, if you think of pulse and break through something. So I don't know what that barrier is, but I felt that. And I also want to very specifically talk about a female energy that's stepping forward on the mother side for you, Leah. One of the things that she talks about immediately is she comes up in her upper lip. I don't know if there was, it doesn't feel to me like, it almost feels like it was cut. And I don't know if specifically this was like maybe a cosmetic surgery or what was going on, but very specifically, she takes me to her, and I try to get in the camera here if you guys can see me, but I feel that it was, I feel a cut on it. So it's very specific with that. The other thing is, though, I do understand that she passed due to cancer. And the other thing is that the number 88, I don't know if that's in reference of the year or like if it's a jersey number or what it is, but I just saw the number 88. But I do feel that she passed more and related to the springtime. So Leah, does that sound like somebody you can recognize or validate? And does the aspect of Gabriel and Michael make any sense to you?
Okay, whoa.
Did you get all that?
I love it.
That was a lot.
Yes, I got all that.
Okay.
No, at least not yet on the
Okay.
female.
Okay.
On the angels, how do I apply that? I can.
Okay.
I am changing careers. I teach for the last time on Friday to do something completely different, taking all the chances on myself, opening up my own business. I don't know how to apply everything that you said, but I
Right.
mean,
and the biggest thing is it's not about, I don't feel it's really about applying, because I feel it's more like a kind of a mile marker, right? Like the wheels are already in motion for you, Leah. So I don't feel that you need to go searching for something to apply. You need to continue trusting your heart and your intuition to lead you to the next right step. And it feels like that you're already aligned with that you're like, yeah, I already got this shit dialed in. Like I've been trusting it. So even though it might be scary, it doesn't mean that you can't shake and be, afraid with every step, but go with confidence and be like, yep, follow my intuition. I'm following my intuition. And then boom, everything aligning for you. So, just trust that it's validation for you, that everything is aligning for your highest good.
Well, thank you so much. That's amazing.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right. So next we have Tara Biggs. Hey, Tara, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're great. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah.
Tara, what's your question tonight?
I I'm wondering am I going down the right path? Or is that big, it's career-wise,
Yeah.
Am I going down because there's some big stuff and I don't,
Yeah.
a little scared.
Yeah. I was going to say a blind psychic could tell you that you got some hesitation in your voice. And understand that we all do that, right? When things are
Mm-hmm.
big and scary, you got big, whether it's financial or big career plans, or, sometimes we pause. We're like, oof, this is some big stuff coming up. But I'm just really trying to feel, and it's really kind of consorted because interesting enough, when I try to feel the energy around it, usually I feel it at my chest or in my heart. And for you, I feel it at my stomach. And so I don't know if you've been having stomach issues lately. And quite honestly, if you're holding, nerves, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times, where do we hold it? In our stomachs for some of us, we have, tummy issues, back, neck, tension, right? So, but what I would share is, what about, excuse me, what part of the next step is hard for you to digest? And I'll say that again. What part of the next step of your evolution, what you need to do in order to get where you need to go, is hard for you to digest? And and the reason that I say it in that way is intuitively I feel that because it's something that it's almost like a blockage, like you're really trying your best to grapple around it, but it's just like, oh, I don't know if I can swallow it. Like, I don't know, and whatever that is, but I would make, if you can, and if it's in your highest good, to make peace with that. And maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's a deeper, and I don't even feel intuitively, my intuitive 2 cents tells me it has nothing to do with this next evolution, this next step. It feels to me like it's either something that happened in the past that's now being triggered by this event. And so I think you really need to make amends with the past, whatever that was. So past events triggering, stuff that you're going through currently, pulling triggers from the past. And if you can find that event that, could be past life, could be something that happened with the next, it could be whatever that is. And once you make amends with that, then I feel that it's going to be like, oh my God, it was like the thorn that was pulled from the paw, so to speak, and be
Yes.
like, now, so, but, overall energy, to give you a real answer, because you're like, that's great, Dean. is, is more, I feel it's good though. I really feel it's solid. It's just
Mm-hmm.
you that is really shaky. It's just like really unsure, right? And obviously I said that before. We can hear that in your voice, but honest to goodness, intuitively, I feel that it's very solid. But again, just to move forward assuredly with confidence, you need to clear whatever that past trigger was. And
Mm-hmm.
I really think it's I really feel, Tara, that
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be a lot bigger than you and not in a bad way, but when you clear this up, you're gonna like manifest some bigger shit than what you're like, holy crap, I didn't realize like we could make this much or do this
Mm-hmm.
much or whatever. So it's, figure out, well, what's worth your time, to,
All right.
is it worth, so
Very
Okay.
cool.
I
yeah.
got you. All right.
All
Well,
right,
thank you.
beautiful, thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Tara.
That's liberating.
Yeah, it is. That's very cool.
I'm just over here writing notes.
Okay.
It's so fascinating.
We're going to bring on a friend of mine. Actually, he played in a band with this guy. I haven't seen him in a long time. This is Mr. Hey, Scott.
What's
What's
up,
up, man?
Hey,
God.
hey, how's everybody doing?
Yeah,
We're doing well.
Are you still playing, or are you doing anything, or?
Nothing right now.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it's going with us too. But go right ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm just
Stoned?
no, just a little dark in here. That's all.
Okay. What you got?
No,
What you want to ask Dean?
I've got a few past friends and just want to know if there was anybody trying to reach out.
Sure.
Cool.
Yeah. Just give me a second here. I'm feeling a few things. And okay. Okay. All right. I really had to listen and feel like, I don't know. Sounds weird when I have to say, I got to get really quiet to feel sometimes. It's like, it can be a whisper, but yeah. So really kind of interesting, Scott, for you. So when I was connecting, I was, almost every reading, I kind of let the angels come in and everything, but no angels were showing up for you. And I was like, what, who did Scott piss off? And that's me joking around, but it was interesting because it's like, yeah, that's too like 3D-ish. And it was like, yeah, they're okay and everything, but it was like, it was too, earthly realmish. And it was almost like what was really kind of interesting. I was like, I feel a lot of galactic influences around you, which was really kind of interesting. And what I mean by galactic is, talking about alien connection. So, it's almost kind of like if you're familiar with the Arcturians, the emissaries of light, and different entities of that stature. And then, of course, other, almost like galactic influencers, we'll call it, kind of coming in and kind of saying, the angels stepping out. So it was kind of like you think of I really hate saying a higher realm, but a different realm, we'll call it. But it was interesting because as I started connecting down in frequency, and we started I kept on smelling cigars, which was really interesting, and like a heavy, like a slow gin type, where I'd almost want to be sipping bourbon or like a good whiskey.
I think that's Scott.
And maybe I'm picking up on what Scott's got going down. But immediately what I felt is right in here, Scott, was almost like a difficulty breathing. And if my lungs were I almost felt like my lungs were shrunk. I know that sounds weird, because they weren't expanding to the dimensions or the size. And so a lot of my, I know enough to be dangerous in my logical monkey brain up here. But it was almost like I think it's a pleura or whatever. They held the sacs in the lungs
Pleurisy.
and everything. The what?
It's the pleura. You're right.
Yeah,
the
there you go.
is the disease.
Yeah. And so a lot of that is just feeling like, where it's hard to get a full breath. And it's almost like if you think of your lungs on fire, and that was just like where people talk about wheezing and just, very, very much. But the other thing is just a lot of painful coughing and everything else. Right. But it's interesting. Like I would be, and as I was connecting to that energy of that male, it was interesting because I would feel that I was still more at home or in a like a leather recliner or a nice leather club chair, and or wherever the hell, and sitting. We talk about you're kind of sitting in a dark room, but sitting there smoking on a big old stogie and having a swill of like a good bourbon or something like that. And was really, and not like the cheap shit, like it, not like overly expensive either, but like some good stuff. Right. And so it was really kind of interesting. And then over kind of stepping behind you, which is kind of an interesting relationship. I kept on picking up on a departed spirit that immediately took me to their throat. And it was almost like I almost want to claw at my throat because I felt it was on fire. And it was almost like I was being intubated while I was conscious. And it was really kind of scary, and also freaked me out a little bit because I'm almost like, like I can't breathe. and all of a sudden somebody is like jamming something down my throat, and I can almost feel it like and it's just like you think of, I don't want to say, and it sounds really bad, but it's almost like you ever see those scenes out of a horror show, right? Like where somebody's conscious and like, what are you doing? And like, removing the aspect of screaming out or in pain or whatever. And it's, just trying to get some, and obviously they're trying to help the individual. It's interesting to me because it doesn't feel like they pass right then. It actually feels like the succumb down the road. But it was interesting as they talked specifically about their throat and the situation that it's involved in that. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
And what about the cigar smoking, bourbon drinking?
I would say that was our thing. I'm saying, thinking this is my friend James, who passed away of lupus and pleurisy. Was one of the last things that he had.
Okay. And was that the same thing? Did James go in and was intubated while he was conscious?
Probably.
Okay. Yeah, that was really like a scary, like I could feel like the anxiety, but it was more like I can't breathe and like I can't say nothing. But everybody's working, medical crew, like, feverishly. And it's just like, yeah, it's that was really scary. Now, I got to ask, because it doesn't happen very often. So what's the connection with you and the galactic realm? Is that something that you talk about? Do you connect to aliens a little bit more maybe than what you do, or the fascination with them?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm an abductee.
I was going to say, I mean, before you said that, and one of the things I was going to share is that
this is a long episode.
I was going to say, because it's more than just like a fascination. This is a deeper connection, because that stuff just doesn't show up. And it's like, okay, he's got a deeper, either he always connects with them or he's got some other connection that I'm unaware of.
Does original soul mean anything to you?
Going back to the original aspect of your soul?
The originals.
The originals. Not specifically, no, sorry.
Okay.
That term. Okay. But
wow.
Yeah, very interesting, very fascinating. Alien connection, alien, whether it's somebody working with aliens, whether it's somebody, it's a fascinating subject. Mm-hmm. And that stuff just, really fascinates me when you start getting into that aspect, because I'm a person that we're going back, maybe not a ton of years, but there was a point in time where I was very skeptical, even after the guy that talking to dead people. And I would go to some of these major expos, and we would, you would always have the people that are, very much into talking about aliens and different galactic entities. And I always just kind of grinned and be like, hey, you guys do your thing, I'll do mine. But I was in the back of my head, I was like, I can't go there, nothing against them. I didn't think they were kooks, but until I have my own experience. And I think everybody similar, right? So whether it's paranormal or on the alien aspect. And then when I have my own experience, I was like, holy shit, like, that's some real shit. Like, and it certainly wasn't an abduction, but where it was more of a possession, but of a client. But yeah, there are some fascinating things in the universe, and we only have a knowledge of maybe a sliver, of my pinky, that we understand, what is what. And so, yeah.
Hey, Scott, can I ask you what, when you brought up original soul, what does that mean exactly?
It was something a reading had said about that I'm like one of the old original souls.
Oh, okay. So that means Dean, that means he's had many lifetimes or something, or
I don't know who you're talking
to. My life
was
was an alien before I was human.
Oh, right on.
Okay.
Cool. Man, we got to talk sometime, dude. For sure. For sure. At least jam or something. Well, man,
Definitely.
thanks, Scott.
Thank
It's
you,
great
Scott.
seeing you, buddy.
I appreciate you calling.
Good seeing you. Thank you.
Okay,
yeah, you
bye-bye.
bet. Take care.
Wow.
I had a dog.
What?
That was pretty wild. You know, Dean, I've known him for many years.
Yeah.
And he did tell he told me a lot about some of his. He used to do paranormal investigating as well.
Interesting.
And had a lot of weird stuff happen. So, but I hadn't heard the alien thing. I'm going to call him tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, Dean,
that's very, very interesting.
You've
to me.
known him longer.
I know. I know.
Notes. I was like, when you said that about, I was like, I don't know if you heard my comment, Dean. I was like, is Dean the one that's high? He's like, there's no angels, but there's aliens.
Alien.
I was like, okay, this is wicked, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very clear. Like they ain't like, you know, it was almost like, I don't know if you guys see. So I'll show it so where you guys can see on the paper that I have. I usually do like a, whoops. So I do kind of like this, like a stick man with a little T at the top and a martini glass at the top, that little V up here. And so that V is where I usually ask angels and guides to step in. And, you know, it was kind of interesting because I was like kind of going Bueller. And there was nobody, and it was just like, yeah, we're not. And then it was almost like above the angels, you think of like, hey, step aside, like, and you know, and then I was like, oh shit, we got some like Arcturian like energy, we got some alien energy coming in, and I was like, oh, okay, like,
wow.
And I was like, okay, there's some cool stuff here. And
that was so fascinating.
That was very cool.
What?
Okay, let's bring on Moon Girl. Hey, Moon Girl.
Hi.
How are you?
My name is Chandra. I'm going to go by my name and be brave.
I was trying to keep your anonymity for you.
Yeah. Hi, Dean. Hi, guys. It's good to see you.
Hi,
I got on here late.
Nice.
Because it's like dinner time, basically, when you guys are starting up. So I got late.
That's okay.
That's fine.
Dean, I lost 3 people in the last 2 years.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. And one of them oh my God, I'm gonna cry. One of them I'm really worried about. He had a troubled life in his earlier years, and he suffered from a lot of health complications. He was morbidly obese. But in his earlier years, he was like kind of a biker outlaw.
Yeah.
And then he had dementia, and I love him. He had a bad temper, but he also had a really good, loving, generous heart.
Right.
And I just want to know that he's gone to the other side and he's protected. And I pray for him all the time.
Right. Well, first off, Chandra, I love your given name, and I love Moon Girl too. So love the 2 names. So you could go by either one. I love them both. But I would share, if you call into any other shows and then there's a medium or a psychic, please don't give them all the information. Please,
okay.
Please don't. I love that you want to share. I really do. And notice I didn't stop you because I'm like, let her talk. Like,
yeah.
But you know, if there's, just give a little bit of information, but not enough where somebody, because sometimes for some mediums, then you're trying to discern, like, was that because Chandra told me that? Or is that because, because that would be something to evidential information that's saying, oh my God, I have this big, crazy guy with a bad, could have bad temper, but he was a big teddy bear, really, And so that's the, those kind of things is what but first and foremost, I want to tell you, because your big concern is, and what's his name, by the way? Is that Mel?
Yeah, Melville.
And I know everybody's like, Dean, what kind of psychic are you? Don't even get his name. I don't always get names, and not great with names. So, but a lot of times when we're talking about somebody in spirit, I just hate to go them or he or she. And sometimes because they have a name, and that's what we remember them by. Right. And so, but I want to talk about Mel, because first and foremost, Mel very clearly is very clearly crossed over. There is no question in my mind. I feel his energy on the other side. There's nothing that, it's almost kind of like, you know, you think those son of a bitches can hold me back, you know, kind of in that language. Very
Yeah.
Ron Real. It's like, you know, I was kind of surprised that they let me in, but what the hell, you know? And so I broke, you know, bashed in the party. But one of the things, Chandra, I was going to say early on, and you didn't even talk about this, is I wanted to say, who is the free-spirited female that is hanging around you? And she is the life of the party. My goodness. She was the partier. And like, if you had a completely loud bar or a loud room, she would be the one in the corner, like with the crazy laugh, right? The beautiful, crazy laugh.
That's my Aunt Enid, and she died on February the 13th. And she was a lot of fun.
As we say here in North Dakota, she's a hoot, you know.
Yeah.
She is just such a neat soul. Like, you know, that's one of the beauties of my job, because I get to connect with other people's really cool relatives. And it's like, oh, I wish I got to meet them while they were living, because she's so, you know, so, and the same with Mel, even though, you know, he probably like, who the hell are you? You know, what the hell do you do? It's like, get the hell out of here with that psychic bullshit. But at the, you know, might kind of look at you cross-eyed, but then at the same time, just to kind of test you, like, got to push a little bit, you know, just to see what you're kind of made of. And if you kind of give some shit back, or be like, well, what the hell's your problem? And then saying, well, I guess you're okay, you know. But the cool thing is understand that first and foremost is that I keep on hearing for you, Chandra, is everybody is together. Is very important for you to know that. Secondly, I'm being shown balloons. Now, I know that you've had quite a few passings here, you know, in a short period of time in reality, but balloons signify celebration. And I'm being told that there was a birthday either just celebrated or is coming up very, very soon. Is that true?
Oh, let me think here. So yes, there was a birthday just celebrated, actually. Yes, but they're not in death, not in
no. This is about the living.
Okay,
and it's Spirit's way of saying that even though, you know, they're celebrating with you guys, they're, you know, saying, okay, that's nice to know. I can feel them around, whatever. But it's about talking about the family unities, friends together, everything else. So very much socializing, everybody together. And that's very important to understand that, because there's a big aspect of people feeling a bit alone, even though that they're feeling surrounded by those physically still here, right? So probably still dealing and reeling with a lot of death, grief, a lot of different things. It's been, so understand that it's still very challenging. The other thing that I want to talk about too is I keep on hearing for you, Chandra, and it's really more, it's on a bigger message, but I don't, maybe it's a family unit, but I keep on seeing this really fun boat. So I don't know if you guys go out to the lake or if it's I don't know what body of water this is, but I was shown a boat, and it's like, great, Dean, like almost everybody, you know, most of the world's covered in water. But no, in reality, I really did see a boat. It was actually red and kind of a cream color, creamy white. And so talking about getting out and enjoying time with others, whether that's on the water or not, but it was just a memory. And so if there was somebody within the family or maybe a friend that purchased one, it's go out and enjoy those moments, right?
Okay.
And you know, you think of, you know, maybe growing up also as a kid, that, you know, those fun times, whether it was water skiing, tubing, whatever, maybe. So did somebody recently purchase this year? Because it actually doesn't feel that old. Do you know of somebody that purchased
I don't know of anybody that purchased a boat recently, but a good friend of mine does have a boat.
Okay.
Like a speedboat.
Yeah.
And I haven't gone out with his family yet. So we have a plan to get together this year.
That would be crazy if one of your friends got, hey, you know, Chandra, let's go out to the lake. I just bought this really cool boat.
Yeah, wouldn't it?
They pull up and it's a red and cream color and be like, oh my God, you know, freaking out. But yeah, stay open to that, and, you know, just go out and enjoy, whether it's on the lake or not. But understanding, and I know that you know this, but continue looking for signs. And the last thing that I'm hearing, Chandra, is just saying that I really enjoy your conversations. And also they're telling me that, that they're continually sending you signs, which you already know, but, trusting your intuition, because you're how do I want to say, shaky footing. You're not sure if you should trust yourself or not, and trust what you're getting. So,
okay. One more question.
yes.
I haven't been able to part with his ashes, and I don't know. I haven't been able to part with them, and I don't know if I should be putting him in the ocean. Because he always said that he wanted to be a whale in his next life.
Oh, I have a whale tattoo.
And or plant it in the ground and plant a tree.
Oh.
Plant a tree. So I feel strange that I still have his ashes.
Yeah. Well,
so,
in my opinion, you kind of should, because you're hanging on to, there's nothing that's ash, like,
okay.
Chart. But here's the thing that I would share is, if it brings you joy and contentment to say, there's something that I'm holding on, like I'm holding on to his ashes, that's okay, because however you deal with his loss, that's how you deal with his loss. It shouldn't be me or anybody else telling you how you deal with somebody. However, the thing is if you're wanting to honor him, by all means, go out to the ocean, and I don't know if there's laws around that, or
there is. I think,
but him, if Mel would say the hell to that
hey,
shit,
I can get him in there for you.
Exactly.
Well, you know what Mel would say is, he'd say, screw that shit. Let's just go out and do it. Drink a beer, throw me in the ocean, and have a damn party, and then that's it. Nobody needs to know. So, unless. So the thing is, but honoring him, and however you do that, he's not in judgment. So, you need to be okay with that. But if you want to honor him, go put him in the ocean. Go plant a tree. If you need something, if you feel that you need half with the tree, half in the ocean.
That might be an idea. That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah, so, that could be something. So something that you could go visit.
Yes.
And then, almost in his joking term, he's like, but what half did you bury? With the tree.
Right.
So when he grows that branch, who knows what that is? That's only Mel will be laughing in heaven. Going, yes, go ahead and pick that apple.
Yeah. So, great. That's wonderful.
But
that's
absolutely
awesome.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Chandra.
So much.
I love it.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right. Talk to you later, Chandra.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Oh, thank you so much for doing those, first off.
Yeah. So, Dean,
your
do
listeners
you ever,
are so awesome.
Can the spirits can they tell you what's on the other side? Can they tell you how beautiful it is? Can they describe it to you? Or is that, because always, you always hear it's almost off limits for us to know. Yeah. But have you ever had a spirit come through and say, oh, you should see it, Dean? It's wonderful.
Yeah. I've been shown like glimpses of things, and it was more like like colors of flowers, but it was colors. It was really hard to describe. So, because there were colors that we've never seen before.
Yeah, I always hear that.
And it was things that it was hard to find words in our vocabulary and to describe, and to the depth that it is. And so if I was to go, but it's a red, but you've never seen this color of red, and
right.
The most vibrant blue that you've never seen, and it's like, but you almost have to rely on people's imagination. Like, think of the most vibrant blue that you've ever seen, and then it's not even close, or a beauty that touches your soul where you almost want to cry, but yet it's even more beautiful. And so some of it's just like, it's like walking in to somewhere and like being spoken to directly to your heart, and just walking around with your mouth like open in awe, and like just taking all in, and not really even knowing what words are failing you to describe, or what you're experiencing. And it was just, if you could describe beauty, in such a level that, you know, without emotion, you're just absolutely crying.
Wow.
And it was, yeah, just such a moving. I've never, ever, ever, even with I love my mother to death. I would do anything for my mom or, you know, my kids, my wife, you know, all that. Absolutely, without a doubt. But I have never, guys, I have never felt love like I did when I had the experience in it. And I was like, wow, no wonder souls want to stay. They cross over. Like I have never felt, and it was just when I connected to the energy, I started crying. It wasn't a sad cry. It wasn't a happy cry. It was pure love. Like my body was expressing emotion.
Right.
And it was just like, and I was like, oh my God, like what the heck's going on? And it was just
I
like,
legitimately felt like I needed to cry for a second when you were explaining that. Like, I'm not even kidding.
it was just
And I don't cry.
absolutely crazy. And I was like, whoa, I have never,
Wow.
So I guess to get to your, you know, get more back to point, it was, have I had glimpses, small glimpses? Yes. But it was like, in a sense, it's like, this isn't meant for you right now.
Right.
Like you
can't
can try
comprehend
to
this.
convey to the living, but this is for the souls that, you know, have crossed over. But at some point to bring the living some peace of trying to, like, they're in such a, like, you don't even have a clue. Like, it's so beautiful. Like, don't worry about them not feeling loved, or doesn't mean that they moved on and left you. No, it doesn't mean that, but they certainly are in a place. And when I say they're emanating in a state of love, that's like, that's it. They are in a state of love. They are the highest frequency in the, you know, in all of creation. And it's just like, whoa, like crazy.
Yeah, and it makes
And
death easier to think about and not be so scared.
it does. It makes it a bit easier, but understand that the physical body, as it fails, and to get to that point, there is sometimes is there pain, sometimes it's gruesome, and I hate to talk that way, but it's a reality. But knowing that on the other side, there is a beauty in it, and it's like, oh my God.
Well, and I think that like you were saying about, it's kind of like the flip side, you know, it makes you more unafraid of death, right?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
But at the same time, like what you just described makes it better to even be a human, because you're like, okay, wow, like that's actually possible. If that's what it's like in the next life, right? Let's try to achieve as much as we can. Like we don't have, what you just said was unbelievable, honestly.
Right.
So do we have to come back, Dean? I mean, once we cross, can we just stay?
Thank you for asking.
My understanding is we have free will. We can do what we want. We can choose to not reincarnate and to stay, exploring the galaxies, if you will, or
that'd be so awesome.
or stay in a heavenly state, or we can choose to be reincarnated and say, you know what, I want to go on the merry-go-round again. And
yeah,
I mean, a lot of times I'm like, I don't know what I was thinking. I think my spirit guide was drunk. I was on a bender that, I was like, hey, we got this deal for you. And you can go back and be like, hell yeah, sign me up. It's like, go
ahead.
Oh, I was going to say is that, sometimes the idea of just staying in a perpetual bliss of having whatever user created experience.
Is this entertainment, you think? I mean, because if you think about it, why, if we're in such a perfect place, why would we need to come back to learn anything? That part I've always been puzzled by. It's like, why, what is this a precursor to, this life we live?
Right. Well, if you remember back, a couple things it goes back to is the idea of a long time ago, before people actually had to be birthed by a woman or other means to be brought into the world. There was a time where we could supposedly, not that I remember, but where we could, at will, we could go from this world to the next to wherever, right? And so, and the idea of when all these other entities and beings we coexisted with them in the real world, or what, physically, and the aspect of where, the story of where, then I think it was man mated with beast, or whatever the story goes. And then God said, well, then, to be incarnated on earth, then man or woman needs to be birthed. And the same with any animals or whatever, needs to be birthed to, come back to earth. And so talking about that, and the soul looking for lessons to be learned. Yeah, it's a great question, because it's like, who here is looking for, I don't know, 80, 90 years of hardship and
exactly.
It's like,
uncertainty.
hey,
I want all the uncertainty for 90
all
years.
the uncertainties, and the soul's like, yeah, that sounds, I'm trying to learn that, like, sign me up. And it's like, really? Like, but when we look at it from a higher dimensional perspective, it's not about the hardship. It's not about, maybe somebody's going through financial challenges right now, and they're looking at the checkbook like, Dean, every time I look at the checkbook, it's like, it's like, as soon as I get paid $99, and, 98 of them go, is gone like that. Right. So, or whether it's challenge, a lot of people around them are being difficult or passing, or just challenges after challenges, whatever that might be. And, a lot of people, they struggle with that. And at a higher dimensional aspect, because we're looking like this, we're looking at a few feet view, and where the soul, in my understanding, is looking from the 30,000 foot view. They're seeing the big picture,
right?
And what's coming down the pipe 10 years down the road, or whatever. And so these things lining up, saying, I need you need to go through these challenges today, so you can be prepared for what comes 5 years from now. If you don't go through today, guess what? The next one is going to be even tougher, or it can be, or whatever the case is. And to give you the resiliences or the knowledge to make a difference, maybe in somebody else's life, maybe lessons that you learned in your own journey of grief, or challenges. Be like, you always hear about these success stories, and saying, I had $1 to my name, and all of a sudden, things turn around, and it's inspiring to people. It really is. And understand that gives people hope and faith, and trusting that things will turn around even when things look bleak. Well, if there wasn't enough damn lighthouses in the world, people being the lighthouse, guess what? People would be in a pretty bad hurt bag, because they're like, my life sucks and there's no hope. And we see what happens a lot of times with people. They end up taking their own life, or they react in anger and they take other people's lives. Take point in fact, what happened recently with shootings going on all the time, right? Just terrible, terrible time. And but what I'm sharing is that there's a lesson in all of this. And even though we're physically and emotionally going through pain of loss and experiencing other things, there's a lesson in it. And I'm not saying what it is, because that's unique to each of us.
For sure.
And it depends on how we plug into it. Somebody might be very personal, very close to it. Somebody might be very distant. They might be watching it on, social media or wherever, TV. And so more distant. So a lot of different ways where people interact with different things, and how they interact with each other as well. And I think that it kind of circles back to, again, what lesson is our soul, trying to find? And, within us, like, are we looking for understanding, or are we looking for, whatever,
meaning,
forgiveness,
purpose,
or purpose? What a lot of people looking for purpose, right? You know, because you hear a lot of times, like, you know, am I on the right path? Like, we've heard that a few times tonight.
I wrote down notes on all the readings you did.
What's that?
I wrote down notes I was writing down notes on the readings you did.
Okay.
And like with Leah, you know, I literally wrote starting a new path. You mentioned Archangel Michael watching her 6 and Gabriel with an antenna, and she's about to start a business, right? So, and then with Tara, finding the past events triggering current emotions, that was just absolutely amazing. But going back to that, starting these new paths, like literally almost everybody was starting a new path.
Yeah, everybody's looking for answers. I mean, because you know that's the big question. What is this all about?
We're human.
And I also sometimes, Dean, I wonder, like, you know, those times when you're in a desperate need of something and you pray to God, please help me with this, and it doesn't seem like God's helping you. I wonder if it's a deal we made on the other side, going, hey, I've got to get through this, and you can't, you know, God, please don't interfere with this, even though my memory is going to be wiped. So I wonder if could be something like that as well when we go through these trial and tribulations and we don't feel like we're getting help.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with what I'm about to say, but I believe that there's, you know, that we're part of God. You know, we talk about God as something that's, you know, that's outside of us. And it can be everything that we interact with. However you choose to look at it, that's your reality. But I believe that, you know, there's a God aspect. If you are a traditional Christian thinking of we're made with a spark, you know, in the image of the Creator, right? And, you know, and there's so many different religions, but talking about, you know, if there's part of God or God within us or we're God, whatever that is, you know, talking about, you know, well, if we're talking to God, we're really talking to ourselves. So are we talking to a higher aspect of ourselves? So a lot of times we're always looking outside of ourselves for what? People to make us happy, people to make us rich, people to do this for us, to do that for us, whatever. And really, when you think about, or the lessons, and really when we think about it, where do we get the answers? When we sit and are still and we get it from ourselves.
We reflect.
Yeah, we reflect. And, you know,
it's our higher self actually answering our question.
Right, because we already have the answers. And whether it's intuitive, whether you just know it, you know, the clear cognizant, whether it's whatever that is, we already know it. And it's interesting because this is not a new concept. You read books like Think and Grow Rich with, you know, or Napoleon Hill, right? Different, you know, all these business leadership, but they talk about the same thing about getting quiet and listening to the you know, the voice inside and already having the answers at your fingertips. But guess what? All the emotions, all the noise around you is drowning that out. And the other thing is the emotions that are driving, because, you know, as in our ego, I call it my monkey mind, my ego, my monkey mind is, you know, when we're dealing with finances, what happens? We get emotional, right? So it's like, ooh, you know, I hope I win the lottery, or, ooh, I'm really low this month with whatever, or right. And so when it comes to certain things that engages an emotional response, we're trying to get free from our emotional response to that, because we're swaying ourselves, because we really want the answer to be XYZ. And maybe that direction that we really want might not be the answer at all. And it might be the answer we don't want to hear, but we're like, I kind of knew that. Right. And so when people ask, am I on the right path? Am I, you know, all that, but it's internal. I had a friend, well, I still have a friend, you know, that it was a Lutheran pastor, or she still is. And she said, you know, I love saying, or, you know, one of her sayings is praying is talking to God, and meditating is listening to God. And praying or cliving, and cliving is actually an old Bible term of deep meditative status, of deep prayer, like, you're really getting into like
For
the
sure.
meditation. Yeah. And it's so many times I think about it, and I thought it was very interesting because I was like, okay, talking about praying is talking, and then, but you need, whether it's, God, the universe, the angels, your mom, your dad, whomever on the other side, whomever you're trying to, your higher self, you're trying to get answers to your solution. If we can, and this is sometimes tricky for some, quiet our mind just enough, we will get answers to the, the, the questions that we've been asking all along. Am I on the right path? What is the next step for me? And there's been some times where I never considered myself somebody that was extraordinarily smart, like Einstein smart. But I will say this, there has been a few moments in my life since my spiritual journey that it is like this epiphany that all of a sudden I was given, that I had the answers for some very perplexing things. And then as soon as, a snap of fingers, then it's gone. And I'm like, oh my God, like I was able to see at the 10,000 or, the 30,000 foot level, and like everything made sense for us. It's like you knew too much, and then it's like gone. And it's like, no, it's like all of a sudden, you ever see that one? Was it John Travolta where he gets hit by lightning and all of a sudden he becomes uber smart?
Yeah. Phenomenon.
Yeah. And he could figure out like all, his buddy owned the bar and like your parking and it's just all of a sudden like transformed, right? And like super smart and like had all these things going on for him, and abilities as well. But what I'm sharing is like, it was similar, that just everything made so much sense. And it was at such a level that I was just like, oh my God, like being exposed for the first time. And then as quickly as it happened, it went away. And I'm like, whoa.
Not ready.
And it was like,
sorry,
right.
human.
Well, there was a part of me that, because I was trying to wrap my mind around it.
For
like,
sure.
How do you even do that? And then it was, but it was cool because I knew
it's possible.
Even though I didn't understand. Yes, absolutely. It's possible. And the answers are there.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's like remember the old math textbooks? And they had like the answers in the back
of the book.
Yes, the back of the book, right?
Every odd
and it's like
every odd
even if you're trying to stay true, like I'm not going to look at them. I'm not going to look at, and
Dude,
then but then it's nice to know the answers are in the back of the book.
Yeah,
right.
Just in case.
The answers are there. It's an open book test.
Well, I could work the problem out and then I could look to see if I got it right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, it's also fascinating. I mean, this whole thing, and I work with kids for a living, and everybody thinks I'm such a great technical trainer. And I was telling the class tonight, I had 28 kids in the class. It was kind of funny, but my motto is everything's practice, and I can't do it for you, right? And we try to really, like, the way we develop our players is we're developing their emotions. And so I wanted to circle back to that aspect of this, because even with Tara, I thought it was interesting that you said that she needs to reconcile a past event, but not necessarily in this life. It might have been from a past life. So to tie it all in, what the conclusion we come to is, how does Tara, who called in, who needs to reconcile this to liberate herself emotionally now, how does she find this a past event? The only way is to do what you said earlier, is to Clive. Right? Like, you have to sit, like for Tara, in order to make that connection to an event that could have happened in a past life to liberate herself, she must practice that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that lesson is just like super cool that you made, Dean, about having to sit tight sometimes and just turn everything off. And it's not easy to do. It is. Like, dude, I have 3 kids, 2 and a 4-year-old, right? So for me, so I just love that you brought that up and everything. Dean,
I'll tell you something that's interesting
that
I did, Dean. I always wondered if our loved ones on the other side could help us with things. And so as you know, my dad passed away a couple of years ago. Well, I went to my heart doctor and I had 30% blockage in my carotid arteries. And usually,
What the hell?
Yeah, I know. Well,
thanks for letting me know, Keith.
But anyway, so I prayed one day and I said, Dad, if you're there, I said, I don't know about the other side. I don't know if you can help me on the other side. And I said, but I'm concerned about this plaque. And I said, even if, if I could decrease it, I mean, can you help me with that somehow? Right.
Right.
And so I prayed, I asked my dad for help, and I went to the doctor, just hand on the Bible. And I went from 30% to 25% blockage, which is 5%, quite a bit. Significant. That the nurse showed it to me. And so it was like, wow.
How did that make you feel though?
It made me feel wonderful. And it made me feel more in touch with my father, that I knew that, okay, he is listening to me. He's
Did it make you feel more in control of yourself too?
Somewhat. Yeah. I mean,
because that's kind of what Dean's saying, right? Yeah. Like when we pray, like, because our energy is connected to that energy.
Yeah. Right? And so was it my dad, or was it whatever the higher being is? But whatever happened, it did. That doesn't, your carotid artery plaque usually stays the same.
Right.
It doesn't
it's not cleaning itself out.
You can control it to where it's at, or it can get worse. Right. Now I'm taking medication for that, but for it to drop 5%,
for sure,
was significant.
Right. Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, thanks, Dad. I mean, so it just kind of answered me. So every once in a while, every night, every other night, I'll talk to Dad for a little bit.
Yeah. Man,
so
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
These shows with Dean are like literally. Okay, how am I going to sleep tonight? Like, I literally worked so much in the last 3 days. I had to get a good night's sleep tonight. And now look at this.
Yeah, and you're gonna be thinking all night.
Freaking madman over here. I literally have been writing this whole time. It's incredible.
Well, Dean, man, thank you so much for God, thank you so much. Last minute you came on, and guys, we're gonna have him on again, and I'm gonna start advertising tomorrow. Yeah, because
I'm gonna turn all of this, Dean, because really fascinating show as always. It really is always so. I would hate to use the word mind bending, but I mean, that's what it is. It's stuff that we talk about, like in question all the time.
Honestly, when you're on I love it because I can ask these questions, and it strengthens my faith.
Yeah.
And what we can create, or what we can do, or what we can ask.
Right.
And
I'm going to formulate this into, I know you're going to have tons of questions. So next week, I don't think we should take calls. Love you guys.
But we have to. That's part of the show.
Okay. Okay.
No, that's up to him, because I mean he's doing that.
Yeah, he is. You are.
You usually charge for the service, so we really appreciate you doing this for free. Well, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what.
I'm just kidding. Okay.
We'll talk. We'll mainly talk, and maybe if Dean will allow, then we'll have a couple.
He's my friend.
He's my friend too. But Dean, thank you so much, man.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me. Thanks for, and I always believe everything happens for a reason. So it's I'm grateful for every opportunity that comes along, and it's always great connecting to both of you. I mean, love your show, and you make it so easy to be a guest with great hosting. That's also a gift. So thank you both.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it so much. Well, Dean, have a great night, and we'll see you next week, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for calling in. It was great connecting to everybody.
All right.
See ya. My God,
that was cool.
It's always cool.
See, and that's what I'm saying is, like, it's one thing when we have paranormal investigators on ask about ghosts.
Yeah, for sure.
But
they're human.
The thing I like is he's connected to that other side.
I'm convinced.
So there's he's absolutely 100% the real deal. There's no doubt. But when he's on, I always learn something, and it strengthens my faith. Because I kept wanting, like the question I asked earlier said, do we have to come back? Because I don't.
Right.
I mean,
well, I wrote down a note about that.
And
can we real fast?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. But no, like I had mentioned it before on the show, and probably to him, is about, do you remember the dream I used to always have when I was a little kid about dying prematurely, essentially, like from a disease?
Right.
And everything.
Well, and drowning too. You used to have drowning.
So I had these recurring dreams. Well, what if you're in that situation and you're like, because he said you have to like go through pain to get to that point, right? So what if that's premature and just so awful that you're like, oh, I'm definitely going to go back and try again. That wasn't fair. Right. Yeah. Like, so I can kind of wrap my head, because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, if it's that, but he can't even put it into words how beautiful that glimpse was.
Yeah, and you hear that all the time from people who had NDEs. Yes, they talk about, I can't even describe the color to you. There were colors that are not even on Earth.
I don't have words.
Right.
We can't. And that's why it's so, like, I love that part. And I'm going to talk to him more about that, about the being quiet and like reaching into yourself and understand, like, that stuff is so fascinating to me. But that's what we talk about all the time, dude. Like, trying to like get my 2-year-old to poop. She's constipated. Like, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, the stuff we deal with on the day to day. So it's so important to have these shows. And I was just going to ask you a question. Is it like, for me, do you feel like when he's on, I do feel like a spiritual connection with Dean. Like, I legitimately.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying. I would love to have Dean if he was a permanent host with us, just because it's like, that's the stuff that turns me on. That's the stuff that gets my wheels going, is that, what happens to us when we die. Like, it's in our intro. And like I said, the ghost hunting thing, that's fun. That's, it's scary stuff. That's all good. But the real question to me is what's on the other side? Well, what happens to us, and what choices do we have? And like I said, and I know there's some questions that Dean's not going to be able to answer because he doesn't know. I think there's certain things we just aren't going to know.
Right.
Like when I asked, what's the precursor to why are we doing this? If we're perfect on the other side, then what possibly could we come back down here to learn to go back to heaven? Or go to the other side? And so that's the reason it may have sounded funny, but I was like, do we do this for just entertainment?
No, no, it didn't. And he said, we maybe like time and space. Essentially what he was saying is, maybe you get bored of going through the stars for a while, and you're like, hey, I'll go back down for a little bit. Time, so, I mean, but again, one reason why I love it is because although we're talking about what happens after we die, it puts into perspective what we're doing while we're living. Like, that's the huge thing for me, is like every time we leave a Dean show, it's all about the next life and everything like that. But what he's saying is so practical to how we live day to day. Yeah. And so for me, I'm like, man, that's huge, dude.
Well, and then, we've talked about this before too, is there free will in heaven? And what I mean by that is that would make sense to me, because it's like, okay, you're being a butthole up here in heaven. Why don't you go down to earth for about 70, 80 years and work on these problems, because you're a problem up here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get that.
But at the same time, I can't see there being any chaos on the other side.
No, yeah.
But maybe if
we don't know.
I do believe, and I've always said this, if you're a butthole in life, you're a butthole probably on the other side. Right. Yeah. And maybe that's before you cross. I mean, if you are earthbound spirit, until you cross, then you're purified or whatever. Or maybe you're not. But see, that's the thing that's the thing that goes through my mind all the time, is like, okay, we're learning this stuff. I get that. But what's the reason?
Right.
Okay, we're learning to love and forgive. I think that's the two biggest things that we're here on earth. Love and forgiveness, right?
Right.
So is there a possibility that when we go to heaven, if we're kind of a butthole, we're still like that, and God's like, oh, whoa, no,
yeah. Wait a second.
You got to go back for a little bit. But they always say that it's your choice to come back here again.
Free will.
Which then would make me believe that possibly once you go to the other side, you're not a butthole anymore. But it's just like, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm using crude wording,
no,
it's
okay. Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying?
Well, maybe it's like this though. Okay. Because he was saying, like, when you come back, it's for a reason, right? To impact it. But essentially, you're just rolling the dice. Like, you roll the dice. Okay, I'll go back.
Yeah.
Because what I'm doing here, I know that this exists now.
Right.
Because a lot of the reincarnation stories you hear is that those fade out. Those memories fade out. Just certain people can remember that shit, right?
Right.
Or you have a birthmark, something like that. So my point being is, you roll the dice. You could be put into a situation where you're on third base, and you're born on third base, and you're doing, or the flip side where you're born, on the streets, and you have to prove yourself. But regardless, because you're coming from the afterlife, you're rolling the dice, and you can make an impact.
Believe that maybe you come up with the lessons you want to learn up there, and then
that could be a possibility?
Okay, see, here's what I thought.
That's an interesting point.
And this is kind of interesting, I think. Okay, so if you go up to heaven, and let's say there are things you got to work on, which that means there's somewhat free will in heaven. Then I would say, okay, I got to work on being patient. Because I'm totally impatient, you know that, and I want things now, like Elvis did,
the king,
man. But and like maybe forgiveness or something like that, and it makes sense. And I kept thinking, well, why wipe the memory? Well, if you didn't wipe someone's memory and they had an agenda to come down here, they go, okay, all I got to do is work on forgiveness and patience, so I can cross over. So now it's not sincere. If I lose my memory, I come down here and these things are presented in front of me, and as a soul, I've got to respond to that sincerely, and honestly. Then I learned something. I'm not really. It's just like he said. Like if I give you the answers to the test, in a way, like you can go, you know what? Okay, yeah, I'll forgive you. But in your heart, you're not really. It's like I know I need this to get to the next level.
Yes.
Right. So that's why I kind of think why our memories, because I always wondered, why is our memory wiped? But yeah, it wouldn't be sincerity.
Well, and another reason why, like if you're going by the roll the dice theory, is that your memory would be wiped is because the reason why you're coming back, although you might have a checklist, you understand that life's gonna, you know what I mean? You're rolling the dice again. So you could be shot out here. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And then that's up to you though. Like as a person and as a soul, then to take the situation that you're in and make the most of it.
Do you think we bite off more than we chew up there? Because there's times when I come down here and I believe that, and when I pray, I go, okay, maybe I made too big a list for myself upstairs. So God, I start negotiating with God, like, can we cross that one off and we'll work on that later?
Yeah, we'll do that one, right?
Yeah, because the same thing that keeps happening to you, I think, that these challenges we face in life, and sometimes they're the same challenges, and we repeatedly screw up with that. But eventually we got to learn how to deal with that.
Practice,
how to deal with that, and how to sincerely in our heart deal with that.
For sure.
And to be comfortable with whatever terms you come to with it.
Right.
So I kind of think about that too. Is like,
that's kind of interesting thought.
The whole life thing to me is just like that's why I did the show.
Empowering. That's what I found with the show.
Right. Yeah. That's like I said, that's my and I know for a lot of people, you start crossing into people's religious values and beliefs. I know I've lost a couple of people because they're very strict Christians, right? And so when I talk about, I think there's reincarnation, I think there's this and that, then they go, oh, that's
fine.
And right, that's fine, because I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. It was like I had a talk with an employee today she's a strict Christian, right? And I gave her the scenario that I've told you about. I go out. I really don't think there's a hell. And she's like, what? And then I tell her, well, God has unconditional love, right? And she goes, yes. And I said, do you think God loves other people more than what you are capable of? And she said, of course. And then I say, okay, so let's say you had a daughter or a son. Your son hates you. He cusses you. He's horrible to you. He treats you. Maybe even he beats you. And someone comes to you at one point with a box and they said, okay, you got a choice. You can send your son to hell because he's been horrible to you.
Right.
Or heaven, right? You're going to push heaven, of course, right? So if God
loves more than
me, then how in the world could he let someone suffer if I can't do it?
Yeah.
And he's got more love than I do.
Right.
So how could someone be sent to a burning hell? Now I always get, well, it's a choice. I'm like, no, it's mafia mentality.
Right.
Because basically what you're saying is, you love Jesus or you're going to hell. Then it becomes, you got a church full of people. And again, and guys, please don't take this wrong. I'm not saying I'm sorry I said that, but what I'm trying just to make a point.
Go ahead.
Is then it's not my love for God is not sincere. It's out of fear.
Yeah.
If I don't accept Christ in my heart, if I don't do this, man, I'm going to burn in this eternal hell fire for the rest of for eternity.
Well, in my argument, me and Cass talk about this because I grew up like really Catholic. Right. And we were having this conversation the other night, and I was talking to Kennedy about it because what I tell her is like, I think that because she wants to go to class like I did on Wednesday. I said, hey, you make the decision. I will totally support that. That's great. And we were talking about it later, and Cass was like, what do you like? Christianity, and it was a great conversation. But what I told her was, because she was asking me about the show, she's like, how do you go talk about all that stuff, but yet you're Catholic? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I tell her, being a good Catholic and a good Christian, what I learned is it takes asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what, like, being forgiving, right? And so, why wouldn't I be able to just have conversations and ask questions, right?
Absolutely. You can still be
you
religious and still ask these questions that's outside of what you've read.
Yeah.
And you have to, because I think you should, because I think you become narrow-minded. A person, we got to open up to anything.
Right.
Yes. There's all sorts of possibilities, and I'm not saying that the Bible's wrong or right. And I'm not so arrogant to say, oh, well, I know, because I don't know.
Right.
Maybe I die maybe I die and I go to hell. Maybe there is a hell. Maybe,
yeah, we're just like,
I don't know.
Oh my God, dude. If we end up in hell, Keith, I'm going to be so pissed.
Yeah.
He's like, life after life. I'm like, God damn it. I'm just kidding.
No, but that's what to me, these are the most fascinating shows. This is exactly. I mean, before I even put the show together, I remember I told you, I even was going to put an ad in Craigslist, just get a group of people, go to a library, go to a coffee shop, and we just discuss these things.
Now we got Dean.
And we got Dean. Well, and then I thought, man, there's got to be other people that kind of believe like this, or they're searching for that answer as well about what is this life about. Right.
I'm telling you, at the root of humanity, everybody is.
It's the biggest question of all.
It's the biggest question of them all. And every single person, Keith, I'm like, this is what I was talking to Cass about the other night. It's like, this is on everyone's mind. That's literally what drives decisions.
Absolutely.
Of your life.
Yes, absolutely.
But we're not aware of it, and we don't talk about it.
No.
Like, because I'm wiping diapers, or I'm, getting pissed off at the guy that cut me off, right? Like, we don't turn down the noise. So that's why, for me, these shows are so important, because then you hear somebody like Dean, who's like, really, at the end of the day, turn off the noise.
Yeah.
Ask questions.
Yeah, and do the meditating. Yeah.
Aliens? What is he talking about? That got me. That was a curveball. Did that get you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That was so amazing.
Absolutely. And the fact that Scott said he was abducted, because I've known Scott since 2010. I think it's 2010. I've known him for over 10 years.
Over a decade.
This, and I knew he did paranormal investigations and things like that.
Yeah.
We've talked. And maybe he did tell me, but I don't think he ever told me that. And I'm like, now I'm kind of interested in that story, and I want to maybe call him and ask him, hey, if maybe have him come on the show and describe. We have not had an abductee on the show.
Nope.
And if
wait, was Amber Lee an abductee?
Yes, but was she descriptive about? Because I want to talk to Scott to see if it's a descriptive story. Like, does he remember being on the ship? Does he remember certain things that happened, that kind of thing?
And last thing I want to point out real fast, and thank you for everybody.
This is back to the roots of what we used to do.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I'm not saying some of the past shows we've done are boring.
Oh no, they're all amazing.
To me or anything like that. They're not. They're all amazing.
We're amazing.
But this is the core of what I want to know, and I think everybody, like you said, want to know.
Well, and I think if you look back, this is our 80th show. Did you know that? 80.
I thought we had 86 shows.
Nope, 80th. Look today, we have 80 videos.
Okay.
And but everything that we've covered, we always come back to this. You know what I mean? Like, we really do. Like, it's our thing. It's awesome. And what's great about it is we've talked about all this other stuff, and I think it's impacted us a lot. From where I think if we were to listen to our early shows and then listen to this one, we'd be like, oh my God.
Yeah. Wow. But we had some, I mean, in the early days, we had some pretty good shows.
Oh, no, I know. But I'm saying our way of thinking.
Oh, yeah.
We're on a different level.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm more confident now with some of the things that I wondered about, wondering if that's true, and then them being confirmed with some other people we've talked to that said, yes, I believe that's true.
Right.
That there are other people that kind of believe like me.
Right.
Because there's not, and I can't really, I can't
talk.
But
there are.
Right. But like for instance, when I go, I can't talk about the stuff at work, right? Because I mean, most of the people, they go to church and everything, and I would totally respect that. I totally respect that. But they're so strong in their convictions of Christianity,
right,
that they don't even want to hear what I mean, they'll listen to me, but it's always the same answer.
Yeah.
It's a choice. And then I I feel like I'm being condescending when I say, no, it's not a choice. It's through fear.
Dumbass.
You either, well, and I don't mean it like that, but I'm just saying, like,
know what you're saying.
you either believe in my son or I'm sending you to hell.
Right.
So you got to, like I said, there's a whole church full of people who are just there because of fear.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying Jesus didn't exist, or I'm not saying anything like that. I believe in Jesus. But at the same time, I think some of the stuff in the Bible got turned a little bit for the Pharisees and the higher ups.
Yes.
To control the population is through fear.
You are literally going into the conversation I had with Kat. Do you know that I'm a huge fan of history? Do you know I was a literature major? That's what I like. Love history and books. Okay, yeah. I love history.
But what's the easiest way to control the masses?
I don't want to talk about the Bible tonight.
I know, but I'm just saying.
But I do want to talk to you about this off air.
Yeah.
Because I think this is really interesting what you're about to say. And
yeah.
Like, no, but to the point is that you're in your struggle, like, to talk to people about it. What I've kind of taken a different approach because like, look at my new tat, dude. It's a tree. So I'm getting trees.
I saw that the other day.
And this astronaut, okay, and then Bigfoot's face is going to go in it.
Control to Major Tom.
And he's getting right. So what I've done though is the way I've been able to talk to people about our show, which has been great because it's allowed me to really open, even on other podcasts, sports podcasts I've been on. I've actually talked more about our show. Everyone's like, hey, you talk more about your show than you do the actual sports.
Yeah.
Like, so, but what it's done is I've been able to talk about Bigfoots and aliens and things of that nature with parents who are like, oh yeah, I totally believe in Bigfoot. And so I'm collecting data because I'm like, okay, all this stuff, and you say it all the time, it's somehow intertwined. You say it.
I think it is. Yeah.
You said that since day one.
Yeah. I think because it's like when I had paranormal experiences, I also saw a UFO. I've talked to other people who've had paranormal experiences, and guess what? Most of them have seen UFOs. So it's like
we've literally,
like, it's all kind of connected somehow.
We've literally on this show tonight talked about aliens, spirits, UFOs now, heaven, hell. So my thing is, like, even if we're talking if I'm able to talk to somebody about the big, like, it's all connected. So it's just a funny thing that you've created here.
Yeah,
it's awesome. It's really good.
And I hope I
I
didn't offend anybody with my beliefs, but
you can't talk about something, God forbid.
No, well, these days you can't. You can't say anything.
On this show, we
got the cancel culture out there.
They're in our living room.
Yeah, that's right. You guys want a piece of pizza?
Yeah,
it's in the
it's on. It's on Garrett.
Okay, so next week, guys, we're having Dean again.
Yes, it's gonna be fantastic.
So look, everybody, tell everybody that you know to come and join.
Seriously.
And like I said, I'm not doing this for the money. In fact, I'm getting ready to demonetize the channel so you guys don't have to worry about the commercials anymore, because it's silly.
This is why we do it.
I may need, because I don't know if I can figure out how to stop the AdSense contract or whatever I got with them.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, because I'm going to cancel that, and then hopefully they'll take every commercial out of every video we did. I'm wondering if I just demonetize every video, if it'll take all the commercials out. We can try, because you don't have premium, do you? Okay, I do.
I don't have any.
So I never watch a commercial in any video I watch.
Yeah, I don't watch YouTube.
Okay, well, we can test it I'll try that, and then you go to one of our videos and see if there's still commercials in it. But guys, we love you guys so much. Thank you for being part of this family. Thank you for letting me express myself. And anytime you guys want to come on and talk about something that we're discussing, I try to always keep the link up. I need to figure out, there's a way you can pin it at the top, but on the format we're using, I think you have to go through YouTube to do that, because I've noticed a lot of creators have it's just pinned at the top. You don't just keep sitting there and typing and typing.
Yeah.
But you're welcome, man. Join in. We're not condescending people. We don't judge. This is for all of us.
This is it.
Yeah. So we love you guys. Thank you so much. It means a lot to us when you guys come out here and spend your evening with us, because you could be doing something else,
dude,
easily. So love you guys.
Love you guys.
Good night.
Good night.